Okay, it's 6 o'clock, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. We'll start with the previous minutes, on April 8th. If there's no questions or concerns about those, I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
I'll make a motion.
Who made the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
We have nobody online here. Nobody online, just so you know.
No what?
Nobody online.
Okay, perfect. Okay, policy, first read, we got quite a few there. Any issues on, any questions, concerns? If there's no issues or anything, then I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those in favor, okay. Second read is for, the collection of delinquent meal charges, any objections, changes? If not, I entertain a motion to accept those.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Before, Josh is on now.
What's that?
Josh is on.
Okay, all Josh's, yep, perfect. Can you hear us, Josh?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect.
And then there's one informational one, or two informational ones. Those, no action on those, right?
Correct. Those are the procedures that don't
Yeah.
require
Okay.
board approval, but we like you to be aware of them.
Okay. Any questions or concerns on those? All right, preview and prioritization, any changes?
I have one thing under student that I would like to move to the end of the meeting. And I'm wondering if after our spotlight, if we could move, well, and it's under yours anyway, so we don't need to move that one. So
Okay.
just that, just the student piece.
Okay, you move after the end?
Yes, please.
Yes. All right, so that brings us into recognition of visitors. We have visitors just, oh yeah, there's, hi.
Hi, how's it
How you
going?
doing?
So I'm Ashley Goodwin, I'm here
Yeah.
for the boosters, yes.
Okay.
So we ask Ashley to join us for the
Yes,
facilities
right,
piece.
for facilities. Okay. And that brings us into the school spotlight.
Okay. So every year at this time, I have to share with you our Perkins accountability data. And you guys can always have a summary, you guys can have the memo from the state. So we just got this last month. So two things are gonna happen. One, as I talk, because this isn't the most exciting thing, I'm gonna just play in the background, kind of our regular, this is what goes on in our lobby every day, it's just what's going on. So as you are watching this, if you have questions, Courtney said she would go back to any slide and ask further questions. I think you should agree to that at some point. If you have questions on anything you see up here, let me know, but that's just kind of some nice background thing as I go over some amazing data with you. So these are our Perkins accountability measures that we get evaluated on every year, and the other page is just a summary page of the results. And the best part about this is the third paragraph. It says Cobalt Perkins Center met all negotiated performance measures except for academic proficiency in science, and that's the 11th grade science test, which I can say that no center in the state is proficient on that science exam. If you thought the last exam we took up in Richford Elementary School was hard, I think that science one is even a little more difficult. But so this is the first year that we have not had to have an improvement plan on any measures whatsoever. And as you go through, again, the summary is on the one pager. This breaks it down into every single indicator, and I'll just briefly go through that. So, so this is actually, I believe, FY23 data that comes out in 24. So we're about, a year, and we're a year behind. But that's how the state takes a while collating all this information. But if you see something in blue, that just indicates that the center did not meet the negotiated target and needs it. You'll see no blue. I'm pretty sure there's no blue, except for in science. If you see a yellow highlighted thing, that means that we did meet our target, but there was a few different student populations that we did not meet the target in. And then, green is, it says that, if we, program offered a post-secondary credential and or post-secondary credit, and there was too few students that earned that, so we need to address that, but not necessarily in an improvement plan, nor do we have to use Perkins funds to fund that. So I'll just quickly run through the data. First one, and
Are
on
we on the summary, or which one are we?
I'm gonna do the summary.
Okay.
Yep, and then if you wanna break down and see exactly, then you can do the bigger piece. First one is, a 4-year graduation rate. So, our graduation rate, was 89%, and our goal was 95%. But we were still within the 10% window. The state average was 95%, and we are a little low in that area. We have had quite a few students, and the reason for that is we've had a few students not come back for their second year program, and those students did not graduate with their cohort. I went back and looked, 3 of them are scheduled to graduate this year, so they were 5th year seniors, if you will. So that we will have 6-year cohort data, but for 4 years, they did not make it through high school in 4 years for various reasons. The second one is our work keys accountability on reading language arts. Our goal was 29%, we had 36% of our students proficient at a 5 or higher on the work keys assessment. State average is 47%. And we've always been lower, and I'll talk about the next one too, but the reading, our students have struggling with perseverance on the reading test. They just say that they get sick of reading and they just start filling out ABC, ABC, ABC. And so we've got to work on perseverance. We do have a math person here, our academic support coordinator and special ed coordinator is Aaron Brophy, and he does math. And he goes into the classrooms, so you'll see on the very next one, academic proficiency in math, where we spend a lot of our focus. Our goal was 34%, CHCC was at 63%, and above the state average, which was 53%. So you can definitely tell where we put our focus is where we're getting some results. We don't have a reading interventionist yet, but if those numbers go down, Perkins might be used to hire somebody that can teach reading. I've also been in contact with Matt in the past about maybe should English for the technical careers be here? Could we offer some sort of English intervention here, share some staff? So that's been in the work, and I think that could be a possibility down the road. The science proficiency, the science test, what's the name of the science test, Matt? We don't give that one. That's given at the high school level.
I have so many different ones in my head.
Yep, sorry, I put you on the
It's
spot.
not kneecap. It's
BTCAP?
Yes, that's
BTCAP.
science assessment.
Yeah.
BTCAP science, yeah.
So that's given at the high school, and we're still held accountable for that data because this is nationwide, and that's how they measure all tech centers across the country. So our goal was 20%, we were at 17%. State average is 31%. The next one, post-program placement rate, something we're very proud of. We have been able to stay in contact with all of our graduates, and we know where they are. They are either working in school. Now, there's a little caveat to that. I think there was about 4 or 5 we did not get a hold of. We've kind of lost track of either through Facebook or they're not answering emails, so this is only those contacted. So based on, I think we contacted about 90% of our students, 92% of our students, but they were all in a placement, so that was great, working or in school or in the military. We've been working hard at non-traditional program concentration. That means getting males into like medical careers and females into construction trades, auto and construction. Our goal was 12%. We were at 11.6%, and the statewide average is 16. So the 2 areas really, we have females in auto right now a lot, so that's going to actually boost that number. And we do have 1 female in forestry and 1 female in construction. We do not have still any males in medical careers. Some feedback they just got from their program advisory board and from the students is that program is, because of the teacher, is very nursing based. And so she is going to be trying to expand that to offer more potential EMT training, kind of advertise it that even if you you don't need to take the LNA portion of the class, you're still taking medical terminology and human biology and I can't think of the other 2 college classes, but those can be transferred into school, so if you want to be a physical therapist, a doctor, any of those things, we're just gonna try to market it a little differently. And if they don't wanna take the LNA, they don't have to take the LNA, that's usually done your spring of your senior session. So they take LNA from like January to about April and then co-op out at a facility from May until June. We had a few students that have been working as an LNA, as a notch, and all year because they did their LNA in the summer. Program quality measure, obtained a recognized post-secondary credential, so that is an IRC. So our goal was 42%, we're at 68% of our students are earning a credential, statewide average is 64%. Again, that's CDL, LNA, GAMA logging, NCCR certification, all the auto ASC certifications. It does say we need to earn, and you can see where some of the focus areas are, we need to increase our non-trad. And last year in business, that we're required to have an IRC for business, that we still are working on getting the Dale Carnegie certification approved. But they haven't approved it in 5 years, but we're still working on it, and that would up that number even further.
Nate, are there other certification programs that would qualify under business?
Yeah, but like Microsoft Office Suite,
Oh,
and that's not our focus of,
yeah, right.
that's not our, we do more leadership stuff.
Yeah,
So-
I just wondered what it would be.
That's what other schools do, they sit there, they're learning Excel and they're learning that whole suite of offerings, and we don't spend a lot of focus on that. And then the other one is the credits, post-secondary credits, so those are your college credits. Our goal was 31%, we're a little low, 29%, and with the state average of 46%. Again, I think that is going to increase just because of our larger numbers in medical careers this year in business, so we'll be able to meet that goal going forward. And then the other one is work-based learning. Another thing that we focus on here a lot is trying to get our kids out either in a job shadow, an internship, or a co-op experience. Our goal is 45%. We had 78% of our students involved in their co-op or job shadows or internships, with the state average being 44. So being a small community and not having a ton of options, we're very proud of that. So, I mean, we have a lot of good employers that are willing to work with us. And we do tap into the St. Albans market too, so, and NCTC has allowed us to poach on some of their Heritage Ford, Haddad, Subaru, Handy Toyota. We have students all in those areas as well. So that is our Perkins accountability data. So with that, is there any questions on this before I take questions on just what's going on in and around Full Valley?
I do have a question.
Sure.
On the actual goals, can you talk a little bit about how those are developed, or is that coming from us here, or?
So Ruth Durkee is our point person from the AOE, and she looks at your last 3 years of data, and she tries to increase your average by 10%.
Got it,
So
thank you.
I don't know why they're not the same across the state. It is your local data and then 10% higher. That's what she typically goes by. And so they will go up every year. So like if we fall into this, I can do like next year, I can bring this and the next one, you can see the
Side by side.
steps up, yep.
Mhm. And the state is the averages, not necessarily the state goals, right?
Right, that is the actual averages of throughout
Okay.
the whole state and CTE.
Do you have data to compare what some of the other career centers?
Yeah, they'll put that all together and they'll present that on one of the directors' meetings.
Got
You
it.
know, that's where we can say, look at the
Right.
graph.
How you compare, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Nate, I know that this was a stretch a couple years ago when we were looking at work keys
Yeah.
to get really more data driven and really digging into what are those assessments really measuring. And I know that your staff has really started to lean
Yeah.
into that, and I think you're doing good work with the students related to this assessment. And in the beginning, you were having conversations about the participation piece and all of those factors. So I just know I appreciate the work that you've done and the work that your staff have done to like make this something that is more purposeful for the students, and I think that we're seeing evidence that it is.
Yep, well, thank you. And and those numbers are gonna go, again, I don't think our reading ones are gonna go as much as our math ones, but we just finished our spring window, so we test all the juniors when they get here in the fall. So the window is around October, so all of our students that come in, we test it if they, in the fall, if they do not get a 5 or higher, when we test our seniors, which are right now, we do retest the juniors that did not get a 5 or higher. And we saw some good movement already. If they don't get a 5 or higher, then we test it again the spring of their senior year. So we do try to do a lot of intervention leading up to. One of the good stuff, I didn't do the numbers this year because pre-tech's waiting, but I think it was last year, our pre-tech students, and no diss on our high school, sorry, but our pre-tech students outperformed students that were coming from the high school that didn't take pre-tech. Obviously because our focus was on that, but that made us happy that worked out, so.
That's great.
And then any questions about what our kids have been up to? Okay.
I love how you put it all together in the quotes. I think it's something I would love to look at and read each one. I was too busy looking at the data to see all of it, but what I saw was
Yeah, it plays in our lobby nonstop, and kids during break go and see if they're up there, and it's just, like I said, it's just kind of just trying to highlight what we've been up to, so. But, okay,
Can I add one
Thank
thing
you.
real quick?
yeah,
Your medical comment about trying to like broaden the people who are interested, I think that's an awesome idea. Like if you think about sports medicine and PT and OT and all of those things, I think you'll get, you
Yeah.
know,
yeah, because sometimes I think you'll think it's like an LNA program,
Yeah,
and that's
for
one
sure.
semester of 8. Or
Yeah.
4. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to financial.
Yeah, so I think I can be relatively quick tonight. FY '25 budget, no concerns. As I've told you in the past, we've filled out a lot more tuition this year than we have anticipated in the budget. So that's leaving us in a healthy position. And as we start going into some of the projects that you've given authority to use capital reserve funds, we're gonna try to do that out of the general fund budget to the extent we can by June 30th. One of those is the asbestos abatement project at Enosburgh Elementary. That will be on my agenda, just to give you an update. Each month going forward, there's not really much to add other than Vern and Jen and Buck over at EES have come up with a schedule. The abatement work will start June 23rd. Should give them enough time at the end of school to kind of get those rooms hoed out. Anticipating that'll take up to 4 weeks, and then the company doing the reflooring will come in after that and knock that out, hopefully in another 3 weeks, which will give Jen and Buck a reasonable cushion of time to get the place back together. I don't know, Vern, if there's anything on that project you want to add?
No, I think I've called every contractor, I think we've got the schedule pretty solid and, barring any bumps in the road, I think it should go pretty smooth, we hope.
And Vern's here to help out mostly on the snack shack discussion. When last we talked, we had told you that the quotes that we received for demoing and filling in the current site, we had one for 20,000 and one for roughly 60, so
Yeah.
pretty wide range.
Yeah.
But we wanted to get you a ballpark on what it would cost to build a new one on that. So we've not gone out to bid. Vern has reached out to somebody that he trusts to give him back of the envelope quotes, and that came in at 119.
160.
160. So it feels like a high price tag to me. Vern tells me that that's because I'm unrealistic. But that is what we have now. Obviously, for that price, if that's the direction that you choose to go, we will get that competitively bid. But it would have to be pretty far off from that to come into, I think, where the conversation was a few months ago.
Right.
So I think there's two decision points, right? So do you move forward with taking down
Demo, yeah.
and backfilling? And then think about what your target is for the rebuild, and that's part of the reason why we asked you to come tonight, Ashley, because we know that the boosters have been really great about trying to fundraise for that, and I heard your reaction, same as mine, when I saw it, definitely higher than what we expected. But we'll need a decision about the tear down, and then whether or not you want to do the competitive bid on the rebuild. So, because that'll get us into 2 different fiscal years.
Right.
Potentially.
Vern, is that the same square footage, same footprint as over?
Pretty close, yeah, I did a couple of drawings we shortened it up a little bit. We took out, and that's the other way we can go, I'm trying to think, that last one, did we take out the team rooms?
Yeah, we did.
We did. So we took out the team rooms, basically what we were doing is just the snack part of it in the bathrooms, which we can look at. That bid it included everything, obviously we're gonna try to reuse everything we can, like the toilets and the sinks, there's nothing wrong with them. The kitchen sinks we're gonna pull out, the countertop we're gonna pull out and try to reuse that as well. Believe me, I know it's high, but contractors aren't busting the doors down to bid little projects like that either, so.
Did you say 116 or 160?
116. 116. You know, and again, we could, I mean, I'm more than happy to go out and get more. Morgan and I were talking today about other options that, you know, I mean, I don't know if we wanna do something as temporary as I mean, we need water, obviously. Question is, do we need the bathrooms? Can we get away with portlets and just do a building that you guys could house to you, and we could, I've been buying a ton of those Amish sheds and they come through pretty well ready to go. We can basically drill holes and put power in it.
Yeah.
Just to get you guys up and going. It's not ideal, but.
But there's something we could add on later on too.
Correct,
right?
yes, yeah.
Is that with heat? Is it heated?
It's not heated, no.
A shell.
A snatch.
So the other option that that you have, and it would take a little more doing on our part as we develop the bid, is you could say, well, we'll bid it out. You know, base price is gonna get you this, and then give us what it would cost to add on the bathrooms. And I'm not as familiar as you all are with the layout, so I don't know where the cost is, but you can kind of structure it that way and, you know, come back with, okay, just the basic shell is this, basic shell with 2 bathrooms at the end is that.
I mean, we don't have to put it, I mean, we've got a blank slate when we tear it down.
Yeah.
Do we put it on a pad? Do we put it under sawn tubes? I mean, that was basically similar to what you had already. You know, do we want to put it on a concrete slab, a hydronic slab, and give you, you know, get the municipals above ground and move forward with that. As far as not doing the bathrooms, we've got everything for the bathrooms. It's just a matter of stubbing up. So it's not, you've got all your fixtures and everything. It's just a matter of stubbing the water in the drain, the sewer up. So, you know, and believe me, I've been on plenty of hockey and football boards. I know how important that booster money is coming in. So I want to get something there.
Yeah. Is it something that you entertain the idea of? Like, I mean, I think of what a small community this is, and like getting people that would maybe donate time, not necessarily, you know, their time, not materials, like where we pay materials. Like, I think of like, I know a contractor that lives locally or a plumber that lives locally. Like, have we entertained that idea with them donating?
So I would strongly recommend, if you're gonna go that route, to have a contractor bid on it.
Okay.
And take all that on,
Gotcha.
so that we don't have one person who's trying to arrange for the plumber to come in and do this.
Okay.
This contractor certainly could do that, and they'd likely be the low bid and they would get it, but then you as the board are saying, you know, person X, you said you're gonna do this for $40,000, we're holding you to that, and we're not chasing down the guy that said he was gonna give you sheet rock.
Okay.
Guys.
This particular contractor that did it was the one that did our sugar house for us as well. And, you know, he is certainly on board. As a matter of fact, he wants to talk to Nate about potentially a building trades kid, he's looking for some kids, so, you know, he said, you know, this could fluctuate if, you know, the building trade wants to help out and things too. But like I said, you know, it's a blank slate, bottom line, worst comes to worst, we can get something there for you for the season. It's just a matter of, is the timing right to put that kind of money into it?
I know it's just so tricky because we talk at our meetings all the time about all the people we know, like you were saying, and the connections we have, and like, you know, so many people who relate to people who would pour the concrete and just making it doable. But I get
The liability is what
exactly.
scares us.
I
I can
get
tell
it.
you right now, the block ones that they built at BFA, I called Tim Smith and I said, you know, what do you got into that? He says, we got 250,000 into that, those two at the Collinsburg, so.
It's the time right now. Everything's expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it.
Do you need a motion for the demolition first? Is that what you're looking for?
We,
Or direction?
yeah, we need some direction from the
Okay.
board on where you wanna go, and, if that's the route you wanna take, I think it would be a motion to enter into the contract for the demolition. It would be a motion to allow us to use capital reserves if we need to. Don't think we
Sure.
will, but it would be good to have that. And then, depending on what you wanna do in terms of moving forward, whether you want us to bid something out and kind of talk about how quickly to get it back.
Okay.
Question for you, Morgan, whenever you said the 116 number, you know, it was surprising to you, what was your expectation or sort of thoughts did you have in your
My
head?
expectations are completely uninformed by the thought process. That just seems like a huge number to me for,
Okay,
you know, it's a pretty small building. So I would punt that to Vern.
Yeah, put me up.
Can I ask just the breakdown of how they got that cost? Like, I'm just really like curious how they came to, I just wasn't sure. I mean, I'm not a, you know, wizard, but
Yeah, I think I've got a breakdown of it. I think the concrete alone was almost 15,000. Where is it? Right here. Yeah, the concrete alone was 15. He's got it all broken out.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing, you know, we wanna get the water away, so we do a perimeter drain, digging around. That was 6,000. The framing was 20. Roofing was 78. Windows, you know, we could probably save some money on windows, siding. The plumbing, I think, is high. I think we could probably do that a little cheaper because, again, everything's there. I think if we can get the municipals above ground, I think we can, and this,
What kind of roof?
Shingle. And he gave it, and there's a $10,000 allowance in here too, so.
okay.
So there is, you know, we're gonna try to do mold resistant drywall. We don't want
Right.
what
A
happened.
repeat.
We
Yeah,
want what
no,
happened this
absolutely.
last time to happen again.
Yeah.
So, can we cut this down? Yeah, we can. Can we make it smaller? Yes, we can. We can, this is just what we decided on for a print, for square footage, and he went out and you know, bid it. So I can definitely squeeze this down if that's where we wanna go. It's just a matter of how extravagant or how simple we wanna go.
That is with the bathrooms or not the bathrooms?
That is with the bathroom.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you bid it in multiple parts like you were talking about, and then we just agree on what those parts would be,
Yep.
and then agree on when we would want them due back, and then you're not compelled to move forward, but at least you have real numbers.
And you know me,
in front of you.
we're always looking, we could, what we call doing futures, we could put the drainage in there and just not add on for the bathrooms this year. I mean, as long as, once that concrete's down, we're not gonna, so if we can do the underground and get it ready for a phase 2 per se, that's definitely, doable as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So, I mean, can we get a snack shack built? Yeah, we can. So I think that's doable. I mean, so if if the bathroom side of the pad just sits there for a year or two until we can get the funds to do it, then we can do it that way as well. Like I said, this contractor you know, he'll work with us. He wants to work for the school. He wants to, you know, he did a great job on that sugar house. That sugar house came out really well. And, like I said, they're not knocking at the doors, knocking the doors down for these small projects. You know, and I would love to make it a community effort, but I get nervous about that.
Yeah.
So about the fundraising for
Yeah, so we have 16 or 17,000 that we have to go towards it, that we did, for the Calcutta that we raised. And, I mean, we could definitely do another one, like you said, could, you know, be a continuous
with more
project,
fundraising.
you know?
Yeah.
We're definitely willing to do our part to help get this, you know, up and
That's
running.
You made that much money on one Calcutta?
Yeah.
Holy
It's
cow,
insane.
wow.
The silent auction items that we had donated to us, I mean, thank God for Jenny Bissett. She was awesome helping us really orchestrate it all. So, yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm thinking demolition definitely, and then, do the others and the, yeah, that's right. Agree with
Like I
that?
said, as long as we can rough in and
Yeah.
be ready for the future, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the key is to get the concrete poured and.
Correct.
Yeah.
So are we talking about putting up like a temporary thing after the concrete is done to allow them to
Well, I
have
think right
it
now, just get the
functional?
concrete poured and then discuss that later on,
Yeah.
what to do after.
Oh, get bids.
Do the
Yeah.
That's, okay, that's what I was,
And then,
get
yeah.
bids, okay.
I think let's wrap up the first part is, you said demo the snack shack,
Yeah.
And then get bids.
this year's money, but an allowance that we could dip into reserve if we need it.
Yep.
Okay,
So we'll gut that next week, save everything we can, and then let Goodhue come in and do his business.
so you want a motion?
So, yeah, a motion directing us to enter into a contract with Goodhue for the demolition of the snack shack.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Alright, Josh?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Sarah?
Aye.
Am and I.
And then a motion to allow us to use capital reserve funds for that contract if needed.
Okay.
I'll make my point.
Okay, Sarah made the motion. Rachel?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Am and I.
And then we can put this out to bid. We will not have bids back for your regular June meeting. You normally don't meet in July. So we can work to schedule a Zoom meeting just to open the bids and
Yeah.
discuss them,
Let's do
if
that.
that'll work. And
Sure.
So
So
should
that-
I relay that we may not have anything for the fall that we thought? I mean, that's pushing it if you're. That's what I'm
I
saying.
would recommend my power to put something.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing right now is just get that down.
Yeah, get it down.
For sure.
Yeah, get
Yeah.
the pad poured and then we get ready.
I don't
I
think
agree, but I
it's
also
too
feel
early
like-
to say until they see those bids, right? And think about what time, and whether or not it comes in at a place where the board can afford to do it, and then like what's that timeline? But maybe one of the messages is are the boosters willing to keep going
Right.
with the fundraising?
Yeah.
That would be.
That's a decent chunk of money that you guys
That's
have
a
raised,
Yeah.
like the effort is there,
Yeah.
and I just hate to see another season go where we can't, because fall's gonna be our biggest season now.
Yeah.
And that's where you're gonna take the biggest hit, so,
And again, I
And we
think,
felt it this year.
yeah,
I
exactly,
think-
that's what I'm saying.
you know, you guys took the print that I kind of came up with, you kind, I think we can shrink that down substantially.
Yeah.
I really do. And it's all by the square foot, so I mean, I think we can work with it.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
so we'll try to pull you together in June, the end of June, before we will disappear for summer. And then, yeah, we can work about scheduling and when it would need to be turned back over.
Do you need anything from the board in terms of the layers of the project that you'll bid for, or
I
can
don't
you
think
two
so.
come up with
I
that?
think we can come up with that. And that is all I have for you tonight.
Alright, thank you. Superintendent's report.
Miss sneak out.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. No thanks.
have, some personnel to go over. So, we have some new hires I'll ask the board to take action on. And for right now, that is Anthony Fontana, Enosburgh Falls Middle High School principal, and Maggie Cavazos, moving to high school competency-based instructional coach. So I'd ask the board to make a motion to approve both of those.
I'll make a motion.
Who made the motion? Rachel?
Aye.
Josh? Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
The new hires for support staff are informational, so we do have a new, Ally Fix is an assistant track and field coach, and Heidi Berman will be working as a special educator at Richford Elementary, but that's a different board. That'll go to the SU board. Resignations that I would ask you to take action on are Heather Hawkins, Enosburgh Falls Middle School Assistant Principal, Amanda Lee, Enosburgh High School School Counselor, Catherine Brown, Enosburgh English Teacher, Brian Rainville, half-time ER UUSD Theater Teacher, Olivia Petrie, Enosburgh Math Teacher, Abby Gray, Richford Elementary Grade 2 Teacher, and I guess Brian was on there twice, one for each of the towns. So I'd ask the board to make a motion.
Have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made the motion. Josh?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
So in terms of open positions, I'll just say that contracts were due on April 16th. There were quite a number of people, because we were in that negotiation process, that asked for extensions. Those extensions were due on May 1st. We actually had our best return rate to date since we've been tracking, so 95% return rate with our staff. So in the list of open positions that you see up there that I'll just go over, it is pretty short compared to where we have been in previous years. So Enosburgh Elementary School is working to fill a music teacher position and an elementary classroom position, and potentially a pre-K, no, we don't have that one, the pre-K para.
I think we filled that.
Enosburgh Middle School, social studies teacher, and an SU funded, a grant funded literacy interventionist. Enosburgh High School, assistant principal, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Behavior systems coordinator, flexible pathways coordinator, guidance director. That's something that we've been posting for 2 years, and we have not had success filling that. English teacher, math teacher, school nurse, and a quarter-time theater teacher. Richford Elementary school counselor, 3 years that we've been working to fill that position. Pre-K paraeducator and a long-term art substitute teacher. Richford Junior Senior High School quarter-time theater teacher, varsity girls soccer coach, and varsity boys basketball coach, and varsity girls basketball coach. It's just had some turnover there. Any questions on any of that? Okay, we have, when we get to this point in the year, we sometimes have professional staff members who have had to exceed the number of days that they have of leave, and we have 2 for you this month. Matt Zielik, who works at Enosburgh Middle School as a school counselor, has made the request for 2 unpaid days, and Brooke McGraw had to use a half day beyond what she had available to her. So I would ask the board to approve both of those unpaid leave days.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Rachel made the motion. Josh?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
So we had a committee that met last night at Enosburgh High School, and we interviewed assistant principal candidates, and we interviewed for the behavior systems coordinator position, and we feel like we're in a good place. I'm hoping by tomorrow I should be able to make an offer, and I look forward to being able to communicate out about that. But it was a for the time of year that we're in, we were very pleased with the candidates that we interviewed. So that felt really good to be in a process at this point in the year and to feel good about it. So, yeah, any questions about that? So Beth is not here, so I'm gonna have Courtney talk about whichever one of these is Beth's picture. Beth is on the senior class trip to New York City, so that's why she couldn't be here. Do you wanna talk about which one is Beth's?
So Beth's is the third one, and I don't know the description.
Okay, I'm going to guess that was either something that they did with Kristen Baker or something that they did I know that there were sewing in their art class the last time I was there.
When I looked at the picture, I think I was just looking at pictures and there wasn't a caption with it,
Okay.
but I thought it was pretty neat.
Which principals would like to describe what they see up there?
My picture's at the bottom right, there's 3 of our business students. There was a domestic abuse, domestic violence awareness event in the park where they hung white t-shirts with messages of hope and inspiration to support awareness for domestic abuse and domestic violence.
Is
I
it
thought
sexual
that-
abuse too?
Sexual, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, yeah.
I thought that one was my school as well, because my art teacher was doing that. So I'm guessing mine, Courtney, is the first one. It looks
Yes.
like someone's playing softball. Is there more to the story?
No, that's the
Okay.
story.
Okay.
I can't see any
Okay.
of them. Yeah, in these.
I know which one the fourth one is, cause my daughter's in it. That was
So I think
the,
yours is the second one, there's a book of old photos.
But,
it was Leslie Underwood's
is
class.
it, I can't see that far.
No, it's okay, they did the animal shelter.
Yeah.
Came out very
Oh,
nicely.
yeah.
Yeah, they got the Muddy Boot Award.
Yeah. Now I know what it is.
Jane.
So ours is the second one.
Yes.
Yep, so that would be our third graders that are at the Historical Society because they're doing something on Richford communities, the Richford community over time, how it's changed.
What did you say yours was, Jen? I'm sorry. I missed
It's
it.
the animal, it's
Was it the animal
Leslie
shelter one?
Underwood's, class, and they're at the animal show, is that what it's called?
Was it the animal shelter one or was it the other one?
They're holding a Muddy Boot Award.
A what?
A Muddy Boot
Oh,
Award.
not the
They
animal
got the
shelter
Muddy
one,
Boot
just kidding.
Award, yes.
So what is the Muddy Boot award represent?
That is a board that, in literacy that, Melissa, McKinstry does, each month, so they won for the amount they read, and, yeah.
That's awesome.
We need the pictures bigger next time.
Yeah, for those in the back.
And like, they all look alike.
I mean, they're plenty big on my screen.
That would help.
So, in terms of the legislative update, we'll talk mostly about H 454, which we have talked with you at length about this year. And yet, this will feel new because this bill continues to evolve as it works its way through the legislative process. I've had no time this week to pay attention, but Morgan has, so I'm going to punt it over to Morgan.
Okay, and a couple of kind of miscellaneous things that I'll just knock out first. They're making some changes to open meeting law. I've not tuned into this, but your representatives at the School Boards Association seem to be speaking positively of the changes in terms of how they will impact you all. One change that we're gonna have to tune into is when we anticipate an executive session, we need to put that in the warning to let people know that we're anticipating going into executive session. And there's a new reason in statute related to cybersecurity that allows you to go into executive session. There was a cell phone policy requirement that was making its rounds through the legislature early in the session. That seems to have gotten new life and would require you to adopt a policy around cell phone restrictions. I don't know the details of that, but it seems like that's gonna get pulled out of the bill that it's in and put into something that is going to pass. The yield bill went through the Senate without any real discussion. The figure that they used would drive the tax rate down a little bit less than a penny from what you had told the voters we anticipated back in March, so good news there. It does use 118 million in one-time funds to buy down the property tax rate. So that's a $118 million hole that we start with next year if nothing changes in terms of the funding formula.
Can you pause there?
Yes.
So that's something to really pay attention to, because we know what it's been like for the last several years to get budgets passed in Vermont. And this year was a little different than last year. But next year is shaping up to be a pretty rugged storm. We'll most likely be in the situation where voters will be voting again on budgets. And so I think we just need to take a moment to hear and understand what Morgan just said about that. So they're buying down the tax rate by $118 million. So that's like a negative in our checking account in terms of Vermont's ed fund before we start spending any money for next year. We're already anticipating that the increases in healthcare costs for next year are probably gonna come in double digits again. So if you couple those two things alone, it is not an insignificant amount of money that we're in the hole by. So even if we were to level fund and not add anything, it's gonna feel like a pretty incredible tax rate increase going into next year. So it's just an awareness of when that promise gets made that a tax rate will be bought down, when this year the tax rate already came down pretty substantially. That decision alone is setting up next year to be a really challenging budget season, so.
In the budget bill, which is, I think, gonna be voted on this week, it has gone through conference committee already. There's $9.5 million for PCB testing and remediation. It sounds like a big number. It's gonna go fast with North Country, and now Hartford, I think, is gonna have to knock down a big chunk of their high school and rebuild. So we'll take it, but it's not gonna likely change things too much for us. There's also a lot of movement around licensing early childhood educators, and this is something that I've not been following myself because it's not necessarily a financial impact. But it seems like they're trying to move a subset of early childhood educators out of the AOE and into the Office of Professional Regulation, where they would have kind of significantly lower requirements to do their job. This is kind of happening at the same time when there's talk about whether we change how we're doing pre-K so that Health and Human Services gets 3-year-olds and education gets 4-year-olds, and that's where the divide is, rather than where they have it now, where we sort of get a little piece of both of them.
I'll add one piece to that part in there. So parents can take their child to a private provider as long as they have a licensed early ed teacher. They qualify for an early ed voucher, essentially. So by making that shift in licensing regulation, it eases the burden on people trying to get that early ed endorsement. So it will be simpler for some of those home providers to now qualify to receive some of that early ed, I'm not saying the right word, but essentially the early ed tuition money. So that, again, is another decision that removes more money out of the public education system and then is now funneling towards childcare and pre-K programs that are in maybe home-based childcare or center-based childcare programs.
I have a question about that. And I know this has been in the works for a long time, this idea of changing the 3s and the 4s and getting 4s more into the traditional education setting. Is that gonna change for the 4-year-olds, choice?
I don't know I haven't heard that part's going through this year. Are you hearing that part? Because there's been pretty big, from what I've heard, there's pretty big opposition from people that don't want, AHS doesn't really wanna let go of 4-year-olds is what I have been told, but maybe you know something that I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that, and you're asking about,
Like right
public
now,
choice or the
yeah, public
tuition
choice.
payments?
The public choice,
public
like right
choice.
now,
Yeah, I've not heard anything about putting
they can
restrictions
go
on
anywhere.
that. And I think there are parts of the state where they don't have the capacity to take on all 4-year-olds. So I would imagine there would be some wiggle room for that. Another piece related to what you said that I've heard people start to talk about is the childcare tax that started last year, and Maureen, I imagine you're contributing to that.
The DCC
through your
tax?
payroll.
Right.
I'm hearing that that's raising a lot more money than they anticipated, and so they're trying to use that as an argument to basically take 3-year-olds out of the ed fund and say, okay, you've got your funding stream. That's what you, AHS, can use to figure that piece out. So that may help with that
Right.
split and those monies leaving the ed fund.
This year, do you think?
I don't know, it seems like there are 3 different bills that are kind of
Touching on that?
percolating around, so I don't know. And then so on 454, the education transformation bill, you all received from the School Boards Association a good comparison of what had passed the House versus what had passed the Senate Education Committee. It's now in the Senate Finance Committee. In terms of the House and the Senate version, the House's was much more comprehensive. The Senate has really pulled a lot of stuff out of that, especially around the division of labor between the State Board of Education and Agency of Education in terms of who would be drawing the lines of these new districts. The House version had some seats for people in the field, retired superintendents, business managers, school board members who would have a different perspective than the legislators. The Senate version has only legislators on that committee drawing the lines. They changed the funding formula, the foundation formula a bit, and that, I won't spend a lot of time on that because Senate Finance seems poised to change what Senate Ed has done there. But it's a debate on where you're setting the base and what kind of weights you're giving to which kind of kids. Overall, the Senate draft feels like one of its main purposes is to protect payments to private providers for high school tuition. The House largely trimmed that. The governor's plan actually did a lot more to trim that than Senate Ed. Senate Finance today, I watched them for about an hour and I can't imagine that a bill's gonna get out of that committee. They were really at each other's throats at the end of the meeting, so it's hard to predict where this is gonna head, and how we're gonna get a positive outcome out of this, but Senate Finance is gonna be debating it over the next 3 days, and eventually they've gotta, pass something out. It's gotta go through the full Senate, and then it's certainly gonna go to a conference committee of 3 senators and 3 reps to try to reconcile what the House passed versus whatever the Senate passes.
Talk a little bit about the tax equalization piece. So,
Sure,
I
so
don't
not the income sensitivity, but the
Right.
larger impact. Yeah, so the foundation formula at its base is recognizing that, right now, you take average spending, you've got some districts that are spending, say, 65% less than average, and some that are spending 150 or 160 of that average. And a foundation formula is gonna say, we're gonna bring that range down into a pretty narrow band. Everyone's gonna be spending within 10% of each other. And we're gonna have a tax rate that is gonna be within that narrow band because we're paying based on your pupils. So what that's likely to mean to communities like ours is that we're gonna have the ability to spend a lot more money, potentially without going to the voters. We're gonna have a tax rate that is set to raise that money, and that's gonna be a big shift for our communities because we've always been down at the bottom. And so no one has really talked about that yet because they're kind of waiting. The reason they're using, the justification they're using for waiting is that we don't know what those district lines are gonna be yet. So is it gonna be our 2 districts within our SU are now 1 district? Or is it gonna be all of Franklin County? Or is it gonna be what the governor proposed from, Richford to Shoreham? We don't know yet what those lines are gonna be, and we won't know now for another year. No one has put forward a map. But those of us who are watching it know that if you're paying in a tax rate based on spending 65% of the average, and that spending is gonna go up, our tax rates are gonna go up.
So this is the problem with, so last year when we struggled with getting our budgets approved, it was because the narrative was around what's happening statewide and looking at it through the lens of averages. And when the governor's messaging was focused on up 20%, we all know that our reality was much different than that in our communities. I think that the idea behind this is the tax equalization will help Vermonters, but the reality is there are some who it's going to disproportionately impact, and those lower spending districts like ours, like Barry, like Slate Valley, tend to also be systems that have higher levels of poverty in their community. So I'm really worried about that piece. That's something that I've been tuning into more and more as we get further into this process. And like Morgan, I've been waiting for that to become a part of the conversation. And I wonder if where that's going to show up is next year when the boundaries are more known, because it isn't really a part of the conversation yet, but it's certainly something that we're worried about.
And they're making changes to the income sensitivity piece of it as well. So in theory, that will help, up here probably 60% of your taxpayers, maybe more than that. But there's still a pretty sizable minority that will be paying the full freight on their tax bill, and that's whatever year we move to a foundation formula.
That's just the homestead, not what about the non-homestead? Have they said anything about that? Are they gonna just,
There's been a lot of discussion about the non-homestead. This change would not affect it necessarily. If overall spending goes up, the non-homestead rate will go up, but if we're just changing who's spending what, the non-homestead rate wouldn't be impacted. What they're trying to get to, or at least what the House is trying to get to, is a way to split up the non-homestead grand list into different classes of properties. My read is presumably so that if you have homes that are not being used as homes, they're Airbnbs or whatever, that the legislature could tax those at a higher rate than a business or a rental property, which they're trying to encourage.
Any other questions on anything legislative? We'll keep paying attention. I suspect by the end of this week, you'll start seeing a lot from VSBA at end of this week, beginning of next week. So I think pay attention to those threads is what I would recommend. So now let's go to negotiation status report. So let's start with support staff. So we worked over 5 negotiation sessions with support staff and came to a 3-year tentative agreement. That tentative agreement requires board ratification. So I'm going to ask that the board, you were sent the marked up and then the original copy of that 3-year agreement. So I'm gonna ask that the board make a motion to approve, or if you have questions, we're happy to answer. But when you're ready, we'd ask for a motion to approve.
Any questions on it? Okay, entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion.
Who made the motion? Josh?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
So in terms of, we don't have contracts for support staff, they get wage and hour notifications, those were all sent out on May 15th. And so we, hopefully after tonight, we know today, I think, was when the union was ratifying in each of their buildings, the support staff agreement, and you're our last board to ratify support staff, so if everybody is in a good place, that is something that we'll get signed off on, and we'll be able to move forward, and we'll not have to negotiate with our support staff for 3 more years. Teachers negotiation did not go quite as smoothly, so we negotiated over 5 sessions. Unfortunately, the last session ended with the union declaring impasse, so we were not able to come to an agreement. The 2 sides are not all that close to one another, and there hasn't been really positive movement towards coming to an agreement. So what that means in terms of declaring impasse is that the union and the board are agreeing to work through a mediator to try to get to a place where you can come to something that's mutually agreed upon. So the board's attorney and the Enosburgh director for the NEA they're working to come up with a mediator to help us through that. And I know Morgan spoke with our attorney, board's attorney today, and they're trying to look at dates first and then try to find someone that can help mediate. And I think what Morgan's last message to me was that they're trying to find someone to do it maybe before the end of the school year, which is a little surprising to me, given the mediation that we just went through with support staff. That took a long time to get scheduled, so it's fantastic news if we can get to this sooner rather than later.
So what happened, if it doesn't happen sooner, obviously it'll be done during the summer, that sort of thing, but if there isn't by the beginning of the school year, do people just say level fund, whatever
Yeah.
they paid this year?
That's a great question. So we have language in our collective bargaining agreement that it helped us to know what to send out in those teacher contracts. So they're at the same salary and the same step that they are this year. Even if they have proved to us that they're making a column movement, we can't really do any of that until it's settled, because where we landed, you have 2 very different grids that don't even have the same columns, and they don't have the same dollar amount per each step. So we wouldn't be able to accurately reflect what a column movement equates to until after that is settled. So what that means is they would start the year where they are now, and then once that is settled, then we would go back and pay from the beginning. But that would be, the first paycheck is, I think, the end of August this year, or beginning of September. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
I didn't hear whether you said this or whether you know this, but the support staff did ratify.
Oh, I didn't know that. Good.
Just came in
Okay.
a few minutes ago.
Is that the text I just got on my phone?
Yes, probably.
Okay. Perfect. Great news. That means we're good. All of our boards have ratified too.
Yep.
Okay. So the next up is it's graduation season, so I just need this board to make a decision about who wants to represent this board at Enosburgh and at the Richford high school graduations.
So who would like to do Enosburgh? Start with that one.
I did it last year, but I can't do it next year, so.
You can't do it this year? You want?
Huh?
You want to do it this year?
No.
Dates. Can you,
14th of June.
14th.
13th.
11. 13th for Richford.
me at least what that means? What do you represent? What are we doing? Because I feel like I asked the question, now I'm in the hot seat.
Do you wanna describe what you did last year?
I just stood there and shook hands.
She got to sit next to me
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sit up there and you get to watch them all graduate.
And that's in the evening or?
11 a.m.
It's really
11 a.m.
Saturday.
How many are graduating this year? That's like a big stack of people.
It's 70-ish.
Really?
Let me look for sure, I'm curious.
It's a lot bigger than
Yeah.
I mean, best case scenario would be all of them. Let me see.
And so it's a Friday and a Saturday?
Just a Saturday.
Just a
You
Saturday.
don't have to
Just
do
a
both
Saturday.
though.
Just a Saturday.
If
Okay.
Akua can't, I will.
Yeah, no, I can do that.
Okay.
So you want to Richford?
Sure.
Okay.
Huh? You're gonna take the year off?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kua
This is Friday the
will,
13th?
You can't do
Oh,
something.
75.
I'll do it if you can.
Wait, who's
The 14th at 11 a.m.
It's
Yes.
enormous.
What time do we need to be there?
You've done it so many years.
Sarah will.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I remember we were in and out of there in like 20 minutes.
So Matt, can you tell us, is it in the park this year if weather's permitting, or is it?
Weather permitting, it'll be in the park.
Okay, so we'll meet at the grandstand around 10:30-ish. That about when we met last year, yeah.
So Rachel will do it if Kua can, I'll do it, Sarah.
Okay, so Mort,
June 13th, right, Richford?
Yes.
Rachel are alternates.
I'm gonna have a singing actually.
Last thing, is that I just wanted to announce that the Richford junior high students competed today in the state geography bee, and they took first place out of 11 teams, so I think they're coming home with a little championship plaque there, so
I remember
we're very excited for them. It's their first time they've ever competed.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
that's all I have for you.
Nice. Okay, Principal's report, start with Kelly.
It is all informational. I'll just highlight that we have started a student lighthouse team, which is kind of like a student council team, but it models after the adult lighthouse team that we have, or the staff lighthouse team that we have. And they've been charged, they're working with a staff member, and they've been charged with coming up with a couple of different things. One of them is our school-wide celebrations. And they come up with some great ideas, and they're also helping to plan we always do at the end of the year, we always do like a field days, and so they're planning that. And so it's just be a little bit of a pilot going into next year.
Okay, so Beth is in here, and we'll go right to Jen.
All informational, I just wanna highlight, tonight was our art show, and, Jen Caswell does, such a creative job at it, because the work is all displayed, and then there's activities for parents and children to work on together and to create art, so, it's always a joyful event.
Okay, Matt?
Nice piece of news we just learned yesterday that Robert Jarvis and Russ Lamantia, Robert's our tech integrationist, and Russ Lamantia is our science teacher. Next year he'll also have all the freshmen. Got a grant for about $15,000 for to continue staffing up our multimedia lab and our STEM lab, STEAM lab. So we're gonna have 5 new 3D printers at 3 different levels of sophistication. So we really got one top of the line, one of their their main models, and then a couple of smaller ones. And then we're also gonna have a 3D scanner, so it's gonna be able to take an object, take the scan of it, and then reproduce it on the 3D printers. And we're also gonna get a CNC, which is gonna be able to do desktop engraving. So they're gonna be able to do a lot more creating with the technology, and Russ he's got the robotics club, but I think we're gonna merge that with the conceptual physics class next year. So it's gonna be an applied type of physics class. It's gonna include some robotics. So it's a pretty exciting thing. Yeah.
Nate?
Monday, 7 o'clock at Enosburgh Auditorium is our award ceremony. So you all are welcome to attend. It's where we highlight Best in Class, Employability Awards, Scholarships, and National Technical Honor Society. So it's a fun show.
The 19th, Nate?
Monday, yep. I thought organizing events for just 2 schools was tough, and now we have MVU, Fairfax, and BFA students.
Yeah.
There are no free nights for all kids.
Okay. On the board
Tough
business,
to be popular.
before we do that, we wanna go an executive.
You could finish board business
Okay.
first if you would like to.
Alright, do we have any other board business? Anything for any? No, okay. Alright, so no board business, we'll go into executive then. Alright, can I motion? Sarah made a motion, Josh, going to executive?
Aye.
I made the motion.
I make a motion, executive?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
I need a motion to have the superintendent act on the student hearing. That motion. Who made the motion? Josh?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye. Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay. Any other things? Alright, entertain a motion to,
I'll make the motion.
okay, Rachel made a motion. Cool.
Aye.
Sarah? Josh?
Aye.
That's it.
That's it.